Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll hear from experts about the challenges facing school safety and security.
Plus, how some airlines are now making a push to use more sustainable fuel in their planes.
And later on Break It Down, we examine the issues concerning domestic abuse and women of color and the resources they can turn to.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Raina Preciado.
And I'm Mitchell Zimmerman. Thank you for joining us. School and law enforcement officials gathered in Phoenix today to talk about the growing concerns of violence on school campuses. On the last day of this summit, there was a lot of talk about how to ease the concerns about safety in schools. Dozens of officials from across the country gathered for the last day of the School Safety, Security, and Trauma-Informed Practices National Summit at Grand Canyon University. Among them, Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone, who spoke about the growing concerns of students feeling unsafe at school.
Now suddenly we're faced with this threat of safety, that no student should ever have to go to class wondering if they'll go home that day.
Penzone was joined by the police chief at GCU, who explained that for college students, mental health is connected with violence on campuses. According to the Center for Homeland Defense and Security, there were close to 250 shooting incidents at schools last year. Sheriff Penzone said this is something that is now becoming all too common.
It was once, taboo that our churches and our schools and other places didn't seem like an area that should ever be targeted by someone for violence, suddenly have become primary targets.
Also on the conference agenda, conversations about threat mitigation, analysis of school shootings, and what school safety means to students. Penzone mentioned the idea that teachers should defend their students at school, but push back and said school resource officers are better trained for those situations. The keynote address today was given by the father of one of the Parkland school shooting victims, who is now an advocate for safer schools.
Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman gave her annual State of Education presentation at the state capitol today. At the top of her agenda, the looming March 1st deadline to lift the spending limit on education. Speaking to the Senate Education Committee, Superintendent Hoffman said the education system was facing a ticking time bomb. She also said without immediate action from the legislature, school districts across the state will have to cut their budgets by 16%.
For educators and school staff across the state, a 16% reduction in budgets will mean layoffs amid the already crisis-level teacher shortage. It will mean furloughed bus drivers who may never return to their jobs if they are let go now. For students and their parents and guardians, these cuts will mean losing access to academic programs, extracurricular, high-quality teachers, and even school closures.
In the past, raising the spending limit was a routine matter with bipartisan support. But this year, a number of Republican lawmakers said they won't consider the waiver until a lawsuit regarding Proposition 208 is settled in court. A new proposal in the Arizona House of Representatives seeks to make sure any use of deadly force by a law enforcement officer is investigated. A new division of the Arizona Department of Public Safety or an outside agency would conduct the investigation. The proposal comes after growing national concern over the police investigating their own shootings and deadly use of force encounters. Speaker of the House, Rusty Bowers, said that the proposal is designed to rebuild public trust. He called it one of the largest reforms involving use of force in state history.
Arizona Republicans aim to blow at the state's extremely popular early voting system by advancing a measure that would require voters to have a reason and make a request to vote by mail. The legislation aims to get more voters into in-person voting booths on Election Day, a method used by just 10% of voters in 2020. The legislation would also eliminate the automatic early voting list, which lets voters get a ballot by mail before every election. It would also take away in-person early voting and emergency voting before Election Day. The bill was approved in the Senate Government Committee and will potentially move to debate in the full state Senate in the next few weeks.
Coming up, aviation leaves a large carbon footprint, especially with passenger travel ramping back up. We take you through the steps airlines and scientists are taking to make the skies a more environmentally friendly place to fly.
Also, tortoises are known for their hard shells and hardy lifespans. Is it all enough to keep them from becoming a threatened species?
Your favorite member benefit is getting better and bigger.
This is wonderful.
Over the next year, Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream.
They give us all that they've got.
From your favorite cooking and travel series.
Even the stairs are breathtaking.
To history specials and award-winning documentaries. Better and bigger.
That really is the fun part.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications Phoenix Sports Bureau provides students with hands-on learning experiences and opportunities in sports journalism. From covering local high schools, colleges, and the pros, students get the opportunity to go live from our Facebook shows covering local, collegiate, and pro sports in the Valley. From digital reporting, broadcast, social media, and producing, there's opportunities for all. For more, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
About 4 million passengers took to the sky from Phoenix Sky Harbor last year, and all those planes landing and taking off leave behind a carbon footprint. But as Cronkite News reporter Atria Maneshny explains, some airlines are starting to use sustainable aviation fuel to try and help.
It's no secret people are back to traveling by air during the pandemic.
Before COVID, 2 or 3 times a year, but today is the first trip in over 2 years. So.
And some people have been traveling a lot.
I travel about every 2 months or so.
For some travelers, taking a plane comes down to convenience and speed.
So I live in Florida, and my dad used to live in Virginia, and I had to choose between a 15-hour drive or a 2-hour flight.
But as millions of people fly every year, there's an impact from carbon emissions. The aviation industry accounts for 2.5% of human-made carbon emissions. That's according to Our World in data. Why does this matter? Carbon emissions contribute to climate change, which is causing rising temperatures, sea level increase, droughts, and more. Without any changes, aviation could consume 22% of the world's total carbon budget by 2050. So some airlines are turning to sustainable aviation fuel as a solution.
So when people are talking about sustainable fuel for airplanes, most of the time they're talking about liquid fuels that would be made from some sort of biological source. So a fermentation product could be corn, it could be used waste oil, and the like.
Sustainable aviation fuel is a drop-in fuel. That means it can be shipped and blended with traditional jet fuel.
We're going to recirculate carbon atoms that already exist by having plant life fix carbon atoms into their cellular structure, and then we're going to brew that up into a combustible fuel that can be easily transported and then used to power an airplane.
Airlines such as American, Southwest, JetBlue, United, and KLM, to name a few, have all made a commitment to use sustainable aviation fuel in their fleet. United made history as the first airline to fly a passenger plane on 100% sustainable aviation fuel in December of last year. In Phoenix, Atria Maneshny, Cronkite News.
The U.S. Department of Energy, Transportation, and Agriculture have launched the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Grand Challenge. Some of their main goals are to make sustainable aviation fuel more cost-effective and widely available to the aviation industry.
It's supposed to heat up during the next couple of days here in the Valley. Nick Shesky is in the Cronkite News Weather Center to tell us about the heat we could be seeing this week.
Yeah, so we're coming through this first part of February here, and we'll look at some high temperatures for tomorrow across the U.S. Some pretty cool temperatures as you look up north. 39 degrees in Chicago, 34 degrees in Minneapolis, a whole lot of blue up there in the north. And as we take a look here at Arizona, we're going to have even more blue here in our state as we look at our low temperatures for tomorrow. Up north, all across northern Arizona, they're frigid blue temperatures. 28 degrees in Flagstaff, 22 degrees in Grand Canyon, 20 degrees in Window Rock. Cool temperatures up north. Our low tomorrow in Phoenix is 51, and right now it's about 71 degrees in Phoenix. And as we head into this evening, it's going to cool down a little bit. It's going to creep down to 60 degrees right around 10 p.m. So that's not going to feel too bad. Without that sunlight, it's going to feel a little colder than 60 to me, but you know, you might want to take a jacket wherever you end up heading. Now, if we look at our 8-day forecast, as we can see, it's going to be about 79 degrees tomorrow, and it's actually going to break 80. It's going to hit 81 on Thursday, and it's going to be pretty sunny, and it's going to continue this warm theme as we head into the weekend for a nice 80-degree Super Bowl Sunday and an 81-degree Valentine's Day to spend with your significant other. In the Weather Center, Nick Shesky, Cronkite News.
I'm Marty Salvov. Coming up after the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report. Fans were hoping for another miracle in Tempe last night as two in-state rivals went head-to-head at Desert Financial Arena. We'll have the highlights from the big game next.
Cronkite News is more than your local news station. Through our innovative ideas, we create new ways to connect with our viewers and have their stories be heard. Our cutting-edge technology allows us to take a deeper dive into seeking the truth and delivering new perspectives. Stay up to date on top Arizona stories anytime on TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at Cronkite News.
It's prime time on your time. Watch Prime Afternoons every weekday on Arizona PBS. Did you miss a show in the evening? Then catch up on Prime Afternoons, your favorite dramas.
No more bloody heroics.
Antiques Roadshow.
Really?
Nature and Nova.
It's time to reintroduce some wonder into this miracle of nature.
All of the best from PBS on Prime Afternoons. Weekdays starting at 1:30, only on Arizona PBS.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Here we go, lights up. Whoa.
As artists, we conduct our educations in public. You can never know whether it's going to be a success. One just has to risk it.
It's you and the work and the place. It's a very particular relationship.
Here's our lens. Tell us what you think.
Friday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. I'm Marty Salvov, and this is your Cronkite Sports Report. After upsetting UCLA on Saturday, Arizona State men's basketball tried to keep the magic going last night against fourth-ranked Arizona. The rivals squared off in Part 2 of the Territorial Cup matchup. Cronkite News reporter Cole Almodova tells us fans came out in full force to Desert Financial Arena.
It's just been 9 days since Arizona's win over Arizona State in the first leg of this year's Duel in the Desert in Tucson. However, coming into the two teams' second matchup in Tempe, the energy in the air felt a little different as the Sun Devils are coming off of their triple overtime upset win over third-ranked UCLA, a statement victory that brought the fans out for Monday night's rivalry rematch.
I'm really happy with the students, just the crowd, the way they came out was unbelievable, and so definitely we appreciate their support in a game like this.
The curtain of distraction and the infernal fan base were upset-minded once again to start the game, as the Sun Devils opened up the first half with a 16-3 run. However, just as the students from Tempe saw flashes of potentially rushing the court in back-to-back games, the Wildcats from Tucson made their comeback and never looked back, taking a 4-point lead at the half and eventually running away with a 91-79 victory that silenced their in-state rivals.
Kind of played the first 7 minutes very well, so like the 7 minutes that we didn't play well in Tucson, I think we kind of made up for that. And after that, it was, you know, we were kind of overmatched.
Just like an NCAA tournament, you play a lot of top teams back to back, so you know, games like that, you just got to dig deep and figure out a way to win.
Well, after 3 straight games against top 25 opponents, the Sun Devils' schedule appears to get a little easier, as they'll be taking on Pacific Northwest foes Washington and Washington State later on this week. In Tempe, Colt Almodova, Cronkite News.
While at the WM Phoenix Open, golfers are preparing for the tournament that starts Thursday. PGA player Bill Haas says the fans here are the greatest in the game.
It's going to be great. I think the fans are going to be as rowdy as they've ever been. So obviously, you know, we're here to play well and hopefully have a good week. And I need a good week, so this will be a great place to start.
The Phoenix Rising took the field today for the first time this season after adding some firepower to their squad during the offseason. The Rising are poised to make another run at a title. That's despite losing 2-time league MVP Solomon Asante, but the team has reloaded the roster.
We've got some really exciting additions. You know, I can't wait to see Babu in a big field, Babacar and Jai, and then I think Marcus Epps, you know, he's going to bring something different to the team as well. And we still have a few more additions to make to our roster that we're just trying to figure out how to get them into the country.
That's all for today's Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Raina.
The Sonoran desert tortoise population has been declared stable by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, meaning the tortoises don't need protection under the Federal Endangered Species Act. The tortoises are native to Arizona and northern Mexico. They do face several threats, including wildfires, human development, harassment, and drought, according to the Wildlife Agency. The Sonoran desert tortoise is still protected under Arizona state law. It's illegal to hurt, capture, or collect wild tortoises or to release a tortoise from captivity.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.